This tank is a Charioteer. This is a British Tier 8 tank destroyer, and the map is Redshire. I'm going to show you a sniping position. There is going to be a sniping position from the north spawn, and there's also a sniping position from the south spawn that is similar. This is going to be at the end of the view range, so you're unlikely to get spotted, and there's cover. And it works with just about any tank. You don't need a special tank. So I knocked some of the trees down. I did get spotted on the way here, but you can see there's a lot of bushes over here. The position that I prefer to use is this elevated position. When I play now, I don't go to the lower position and knock any of the trees down. I just go straight to the elevated position and I knock this upper tree down. Obviously, I went a little bit too far. I don't have this sloppy gameplay when I normally play. You do have to position yourself properly because of the shape of the hill over here. If you're not in a proper position, you might not have the proper gun elevation or the gun depression. Now, another matter is that it's more effective if you're on a losing team. So if the enemy is advancing through, you're going to have a lot more shots. And they're very unlikely to spot you. I never get spotted back here. This is a Tier 10 match. It's going to be difficult to get penetrations until they show their side armor. That was 239 damage. It's a very, very strong position, and you should have someone here every match. That one missed. It went under the tank. That one hit the track. I'm aiming for the lower plate. 254 damage. So I got 519 damage so far. You can see that my team is advancing, and because my team is advancing, I'm not going to get a lot of shots in from this point onward. Okay, so that was 103 damage with 1 kill. This tank is the E50. This is a German Tier 9 medium tank. The map is Murovanka. I'm going to show you a sniping position that you can use when resetting the cap in encounter mode. So you'll notice I got a penetration on that first shot. And I killed that tank. Now, the way you find this position, look on the minimap. You'll notice on the minimap there are roads in the middle of the map, and there's a triangular shape. And basically, the position is to be inside that triangular shape. When you're in that triangular shape, you're a pretty good distance to the encounter base where you can hit tanks that are within the encounter circle, and you're far enough away that you're not going to be spotted easily, and it's easy to find on the minimap. So look for that little triangular space, and you can use that as a sniping position. You cannot snipe every tank that's on the encounter map, but you got perhaps a 30% or 25% view. This tank is the RU-251. This is a German Tier 9 light tank. The map is Siegfried Line. I am going to show you a sniping position that you can use on this map. This is an assault defend map, and I'm on the assaulting team. You'll notice that there's a tree over here. Knock the tree down. You've got hard cover on your left. You've got various trees that you can use for soft cover. You can spot from this location, and you can also snipe from this location. I lost the target right when I was about to go in for a shot. So now, because I was spotted, I'm going to fall back and count to 10. So obviously that time it did not penetrate. I'm going to count 10 seconds. Sometimes I use the reload timer on my tank to determine this, to help me count. And sometimes I look at the timer in the upper right corner and I just deduct 10 seconds. The 10-second rule works for me. If you do something shorter like 8 seconds or 7 seconds, you might run into problems. Now you're also going to notice that I've lost my allies in the north. So it's going to make the northern enemy tanks more aggressive. You have to be aware of that. They're going to become more aggressive. That time I was not spotted. And they are advancing on my position. I was not spotted. Now, in regards to my playing style, I don't like any of the brawling, and the reason why is I used to play from South America, and my computer had performance problems. It would overheat. So brawling was very difficult because when you're brawling with close combat, I would run into a lot of problems with drop packets, and the enemy had an advantage over me. So I got used to playing by flanking as often as possible, and I hate the brawling meta. So that's why I have this particular playing style. I got 1,583 damage from that position. Sneaky returning to that position. And you can do the same thing from the other side of this concrete barrier. There's 5 enemy tanks up there. This tank is the AMX 5120. This is a French Tier 9 heavy tank, and the map is airfield. I'm going to show you a sniping position. Certain sniping positions, this is more like an ambush position. Because this tank is an autoloader, it fires very rapidly. You can do a lot of damage in a short amount of time. It's ideal for ambushing the enemy. It also works well with a derp gun that does a lot of damage per shot and might have a long reload. So what I do is I move over here. You got to be careful where you go. You're going to spot the enemy, but there's 2 dangers that you have to be aware of from this position. You can see the tank in front of me, the T54, might also be looking at the same position. Well, he's not firing, so I would say he doesn't know about it. Oh, somebody did fire a shot. Maybe it was him. So I've already done 1,100 damage, 3 shots from this position. Okay, now the question is, what are the dangers here? There's 2 dangers. One of them is going to be tanks where that IS is. If you're in the wrong position in this space, you can get hit by where that IS is. If he moves to a certain position and you happen to be in the wrong location, you can get hit. The second danger is you see that there's an LTG. There could be a tank right in front of you, basically right in the center of the screen on the opposite side of the hill, who can take shots at you if you're not paying attention. Obviously, you can get sniped from a distance, but those are the 2 things you really got to worry about. Because they'll not only shoot at you, but they will also spot you. Obviously, other tanks can shoot at you from within the game, but the idea is to not be spotted. This tank is a T54 Lightweight. This is a Russian Tier 9 light tank, and the map is Cliff. I'm going to show you a sniping position that you can use. I'm not a big fan of this tank. This tank was very popular at one point because of the fact that it was a light tank, it was fast, it had decent armor, etc. But the thing I don't like driving it. The mobility, it's difficult for me to drive, and I don't like this style of tank. So if you're spotted, you want to count to 10 to wait until you're unspotted. Now keep in mind that this position is a good ambush position at the start of the game. It's ideal if you have an autoloader or a fast-firing tank or a tank that does a lot of damage per shot. It helps to have good gun depression also. You can see that while I was on that concrete or that marble structure, I didn't have the proper gun depression. I've done at least 700 damage so far. I'm moving to a safer position. Now this is a safer position on this side because the FV, which is directly in front of me, and there's a second tank over there, they can't hit me from here. And the other tank that I'm firing at, the M103, he's going to ignore me and he's going to just keep on driving. That's 993 damage. You'll notice the movement that I use when I'm trying to spot the tank. I do a circle motion, or sometimes I do a figure 8 motion in order to locate the tank. Staying as far left as possible. I probably could have fired right through there. Up to 1,500 damage. Now, as you can see, I can move forward from this position, still hit that M103, and I'll be protected from the M46 patent, the AMX 1390, and that FV, which is in front of me, he'll have to come out further in order to hit me. If I'm in the position that's behind me, the FV can hit me without coming out as much, and the M46 might be able to sneak in a shot, I don't know. But there's an advantage to switching to this position. Lousy driving. Okay, now I think that I've used up all of the enemy tanks, all the targets have already passed by. The idea is to ambush the tanks that are on the way to the east side, all those slow, heavy tanks. I did 1,517 damage. You can do it in the opposite direction, hitting it tanks this way. However, it's far easier to be on the south, hitting the northern team, and there's two reasons why. Number one, well, there's three reasons why. There's a lot more obstacles in the way on the southern team, so the tanks that are driving through have a lot of things to hide behind. Number two, because of the way the land is sloped, on the northern team, you can hit from that FV all the way around to where the M103 is, but if you're on the northern team trying to hit the southern team, you really can only hit a smaller swath. And the other reason why is because there's a lot more flatter space for the southern team. For the northern team, you've got a lot less space, so you cannot double bush. And when I say double bush, I mean being able to fire but be far enough behind the bush that you can't be spotted. If you play on the northern team, you have to be close to the bush, which means that you're going to be spotted when you fire your gun. This tank is the Foch B. This is a French Tier 10 tank destroyer, and the map is Ensk. I'm going to show you a sniping position, and I'm going to show you some flanking. This is a Tier 10 game, which is going to affect my gameplay. I like to use this sniping position. It works out really well. There's going to be some cases where it's not a strong position. It's going to be very good position if the enemy is further away from you. As the enemy approaches and gets closer to you, you get spotted, and you don't want to be spotted in this position. You want to go into this back corner. Look at where I am on the mini-map. And you'll notice there's a gap right there in front of me. You've got the gap that goes into the road, and then across the street into another neighborhood. So now there's a badger in front of me, and you see where that badger is on the mini-map? I don't know how to get the map. There's a way to make a big map on the screen. I don't know how to do it. So that badger is going to be one of the targets that you're going to be going after from this position. Look on the mini-map and see where the badger is. He's obviously right there in front of me. And the other one is going to be the IS-7. The last target is going to be anyone that goes between the buildings directly in front of you. So there's going to be three locations that you're going to be firing at. So I did 434 damage. I was only able to get one penetrating shot. One of the issues about this is that a lot of the enemy tanks are going to be side scraping, which means you might have to use high explosive rounds or heat rounds. And because of the bushes and the foliage between me and the badger, if I'm not spotted, I'll be able to shoot at him and they'll never see me, and they don't know where to fire to shoot back at you. That's why it's a really great position. You can see that there's a mouse that's moved up to become a potential target. There's an allied mouse that's going to block my shots. And I go to this position almost every time that I play on Ensk, that sniping position. Now we're going to see some flanking. Now, when I come around the corner, I use the auto aim to select the enemy tank, and I let the computer turn my tank automatically. What happens is when you use the auto aim with this type of a tank destroyer, the game is going to turn the tank exactly into the perfect position to line up with the auto aim. I let the computer do it because it's going to be a lot more faster and more accurate than if I try to do it manually. And I might do it for the IS-7 also. You'll notice that every time I take a shot, I come out of the sniper mode because I want to see what's going on. Being in the sniper mode, you're very vulnerable. You could easily be assaulted by a tank coming on your flank or your rear, which is why you have to have that view of the battlefield. Because I have an autoloader, obviously I'm going to go into a reloading position. Now that we've won, I'm advancing to a secondary reloading position. I would have stopped here, but the enemy tank died, so I'm going to continue on. This is my reloading position. The enemy tank is probably not aiming his gun in my direction, and that's how I advance on this map. This tank is the UDAS 3. This is a Swedish Tier 7 tank destroyer, and the map is Ensk. I'm going to show you a sniping position that you can use when you play on this map. One of the things that I do is I like to spot along this central alley or along the rails. I'm really not going to be that useful in the town area. This is not a brawling tank. It's really more of a long-distance sniping tank. And usually from this position, you're going to spot some tanks depending on how they spawn. On this particular game, obviously, I did not. And I do not have a full spotting range. So we're going to advance to a second position. And you can do this with any tank. It works best with auto loaders. It works great with derp guns. There's an obstacle in the way that's going to prevent me from shooting at the enemy. So I'll probably have to reposition. There's a monument with a statue. So now from this position, I can shoot anyone that leaves the neighborhood for the southern team. They go through a little alleyway, which has already happened. There's a lot of tanks that haven't left. And from here, obviously, you can see you can snipe down the alley here. But unfortunately, my team controls the alley, so we don't have any targets to shoot at. There is a red tank that I can shoot at. There he is. Got 702 damage. And no one is firing back at me. This is a very dangerous position. The enemy is going after our base and our SPG. It's a very dangerous position. You're often going to have enemy tanks firing back at you. And this is not the only position. There's lots of different positions that you can take to snipe down that road. This is one of the more popular ones. And one of the great things about it is you can snipe to the north. Was able to kill a key enemy tank, one of their scouts. The M4 turned away at the last second for a second time. Oh, don't want to shoot him. Look at that. That's 3 kills. This tank is a Type 64. This is a Chinese Tier 6 light tank. The map is Fisherman's Bay. I am going to show you a sniping position that you can use on this map. The map has changed, so we're going to see some we're going to have to discover the new sniping positions, and we're going to have to be practicing these to show you the good things and the bad things, what might happen Now, the reason why I was going back and forth is because I knew he was aiming at me, and I knew he would shoot me, and I knew he could do a lot of damage to me. After he fired, I no longer had to go back and forth. Now, the issue with this position is that you could easily get spotted by the enemy team, and the enemy team could easily kill you. So you have to be very careful about what happens. And you might come here and have no support and be on your own. Now, the thing I like to do is I like to ambush suckers, so I'm going to go into town and see if I can help ambush this tiger too. You don't want to go where your allies are going. You want to come from a different angle. Perfectly safe for me to go here. Got to watch where the enemy's going. Keep an eye on all those tanks. Stay away from danger. Keep an eye on him. You notice he turned his gun away from me, but he's now dead. Finish off with the T20. So this is an ideal game. This is the way you want it to work out. First, you want to use a sniping position to soften up the enemy. And if you have a fast light tank, then you want to go and ambush enemy tanks that are isolated and do a rear flank on the city map. This tank is the AMX 1357 GF. This is a French Tier 7 light tank, and the map is Fjords. I'm going to show you a sniping position on this map that you can use when you play this game. Now, this is one of my favorite tanks in the game. I like the AMX 13 line of tanks. I love this tank. I wish this were Tier 10. I like the rapid fire. I like the mobility. It's quick. There's everything about it is great. I enjoy playing this tank. Now you got to notice that from here, enemy heavy tanks that are heading to the south have to pass through that gap. And by passing through that gap, if you've got an autoloader or a tank that does a lot of damage like a derp gun, you can do a lot of damage to tanks passing through that gap at the beginning of the game. So this is an ambush position. Okay, so I didn't do any penetrations. And I was spotted. Now that the enemy tanks have advanced into their fighting position, they're going to be more difficult to hit. But there is an exception. If there's a lot of enemy tanks in that position, there might be some of the lower tier tanks that are going to hang back a little bit. And if the enemy team is losing and they have to retreat, then it's going to be easy to take shots at them. This tank is a Charioteer. This is a British Tier 8 tank destroyer, and the map is Himmelsdorf. This is a Tier 8 tank in a Tier 9 and 10 game. I enjoy flanking, and the reason why I learned how to flank is because I had to come up with a method for playing a low-tier tank in a higher-tier game. I can't go against these tanks head-to-head. You know, this tank is not going to brawl against Tier 9 and Tier 10 tanks, so that's why I started looking for flanking positions, and I'm going to show you one of them. We're going to talk about the good things about the position, the bad things about the position, etc. One of the dangers you're going to come across is that light tanks, enemy light tanks might locate you in this position, so you have to be very careful. And there are many sniping positions that you can use. I'm just going to show you this one in particular. Notice that from here I can shoot up on the hill. Look at where I am on the mini-map on the opposite side of the base. Have nice clear shots of that hill. Now I'm going to talk real quick about this position. Number one, I believe that the buildings in the previous version of the map may have been taller, which is why this position may not have worked in the previous versions. But now I definitely know that I can shoot over a lot of the buildings. Second of all, if you look in the distance, you're going to notice that where those enemy tanks are up on the hill, the Centurion and the Object 257, it's more difficult to hit them from, for example, where the IS-3 is. The IS-3 and the STA-2 are in sniping positions that we used to use before they changed the map. However, they changed the hill, the walls and the slope of the hill, and maybe the height of the hill and the height of the buildings. They made it so that it's almost impossible to snipe from the position where the IS-3 is. Because you can only see the tops of the tanks. They made it a lot more difficult. So that's why I had to come further out and use this position. You notice on the mini-map that the enemy T-92 is headed in this direction. So the ideal thing is to help out my ally deal with that T-92. Looks like the T-92 is running away at this point. That looks like a hit. One of the alternate positions you can use is you can go to the side of this building, which will get you a little bit closer. However, you might not want to do it during an encounter game because the enemy will know your location. The other thing is I'm not in a really good position here. I just kind of stopped here. You probably want to get a position that's closer to the building. There's also gaps. There's a gap over. You could see that T54 over there. There's a little gap over there in the buildings, and then there's another one right over there. Between the building here and the building here, there's a little gap where you can park over here, but it's going to be more difficult from those positions. The alternatives are to go back over this way a little bit more. I haven't tried yet from inside the rail station, and there's also positions on the other side of this building that you can use. So it looks like the enemy has won the hill. For me to remain on this position anymore, there's going to be no more targets up there at the top of the hill. So let's move on to the next video. This tank is a T110E4. This is an American Tier 10 tank destroyer. The map is Karelia. This is an assault defend map, and I'm on the defending team. I'm going to show you a sniping position. You'll notice that most of my rounds are high explosive rounds, and the reason why is because with this particular tank, I think I have more benefit to having high explosive rounds over the APCR, because I really don't like to fire APCR rounds. I go all day long without firing APCR rounds. I play for hours without firing APCR rounds. I prefer to use the high explosive rounds at this point. So the sniping position is directly in front of me. There's a lot of great things about this position. You can see that I was spotted. However, this is a great position, and It's possible that you could get hammered from this position, but at the start of the game, it's less likely to happen. When the team takes up positions, flanking positions, and you get spotted over here and they know you're here, they can definitely take you out really fast. So it's very important from this point onward to not get spotted in this position. You have to learn how to hide behind the rocks that are here. If you get fire from one side, move to the other side of the rock. Stay within the bushes. Make sure that your gun, when you fire, is surrounded by bushes and rocks so you don't get spotted. I do have trouble in this spot when I have a very slow tank. This is somewhat of a slow tank. If you have a fast tank, you're going to get here. No one's going to notice you. They're not even going to see you on the minimap. Right now, there's a little red dot for my location, so there's a constant reminder to the enemy team that I'm here. Now, a tank like that Super Conqueror, I don't know why he's in that position, but he could be pinned down in that position the whole game simply because I'm firing at him. You want to avoid going to the next row of bushes. You have to play very smart. I'm not saying it's impossible, but with this tank, it's a lot more difficult because you increase the chance you're going to get spotted. So that was 805 damage against the Object 268 on the side armor. You notice that he took a blind shot. So he knew I was here. He took another blind shot. Actually, I don't know if he took a blind shot or not. Maybe I was spotted. But he took 2 shots at me. He took another shot at me. So what you can do is, all you have to do is reverse into that position around the rock, and you're not there anymore. You will notice that from this position, a lot of times the tanks will be outside your range. That was 651 damage against the Object 268. And you'll notice that I did reposition to avoid that Super Conqueror. When you play the game, you want to be as far away from the enemy as possible, but still have them within your render range. And the reason why, because it puts more bushes in front of you, which means that you're less likely to be spotted when you fire your gun. If you're firing at the other flank, you're going to want to be obviously on the other side of the bushes with the reverse situation. It is possible for the enemy to hide from you. So that was a blind shot. He's still blind firing, but he doesn't know that I repositioned my tank to make it more difficult for him to hit me. You do have to go back and forth, and some tanks do have a slow turret. There have been games where I've been waiting a long time for the turret to flip around. I got 1,456 damage from this position. This position works a little bit better mid-game. At the start of the game, it's not like you can have all these enemy tanks waiting for you to shoot at them. It works when the enemy has to try to find a way to go around the flank. As tanks die, the enemy's not going to be as risky going around the flanks, so they're going to be further away from you. So the optimal time is going to be in the mid-game when the enemy's trying to flank your team, and they have a lot of enemy tanks out there. So the Super Conqueror still took a blind shot at me. Let's see how I'm positioned. I'm not in a good position. I should really reverse more. That was a blind shot. He did damage to my tank. That was with an HE round. His APCR rounds were not penetrating. I did 418 damage. Now you can see I'm advancing to the next row. You got to be very careful. I'm advancing because I know that there's very few tanks in front of me. So I'm a lot less likely to get spotted from this position. I would do it with a light tank. It is difficult to hit up on that hill. That's 2,191 damage, 789 spotting damage. And I got 2 kills. Okay, so that's the end of the spotting position. I am going to talk about another position now that I'm here. You see where that STRV is? Look out on the mini-map. There's an STRV behind me, and there's a Super Conqueror. There's a position there. I'm pointing directly at it, directly behind me, which is south of the STRV. I tried that sniping position. It was absolutely horrible and completely worthless. I do not recommend it. There's other positions, like, for example, this one right here I haven't spent a lot of time with, and there's plenty on this side. This tank is the UDS-03. This is a Swedish Tier 8 tank destroyer. The map is Karelia. This is an assault defend game, and I'm on the defending team. I'm going to be showing you a sniping position that you can use when you play this game. This particular position, it's better off if you have a fast tank, because you want to get here as quickly as possible. You'll notice that we've got 2 light tanks midfield. We got an enemy light tank we got to worry about. We don't want to have these enemy light tanks. They're going to ruin the game for us. We got to take those tanks out of the game. We got 465 damage. So the enemy light tank is dead. However, the enemy also killed one of our light tanks. So now it's a lot safer for me to be here in this position. And I have not been spotted yet, so the enemy doesn't know that I'm here. One of the issues I have with the UDAS, at least when it's stock, is that it's very slow to rotate the turret, for example. So it takes a long time to go back and forth between the flanks. The VK100, I believe, also has a slow turret traverse. And I believe I have played the VK100 in this position also. Now you notice that the Allied Bat Chat is very close to me. We shouldn't be in the same position. We should be spread out more. However, this is the best position that I've used so far on this map. There's good, solid cover. There's a lot of bushes to hide in. You've got pretty good access to the north and the south flanks. And you've got decent spotting. One issue when you're spotting, we have a Sheridan on our team. And the Sheridan is in the south with the Schwarzpanzer. But what he doesn't realize, half of his spotting circle is off screen, not even in the gameplay. So he's wasting half of his spotting because he's near the red line of the map. Very slow to turn around. You really got to read the mini-maps well. You don't want to waste your time trying to shoot at a tank that's out of your range. You can see in the south, there's a Centurion who is unspotted, but he's the only one that's within my range. I have more potential targets in the north, but there's too many hills blocking me. So one thing that I could do is I could switch flanks and I could travel south in order to try and hit some of those tanks if they're out in the open. Right now, I don't know if they're out in the open or not. I do have 1,458 damage and 0 spotting damage. Because this tank is a new tank for me, I just purchased it, it might not be properly equipped for spotting range. My crew might not be leveled up as high. You might ask, what's the best spotting position? If you look on the mini-map, there's an object 704. The object 704 is on the enemy team. He's in the best spotting position for this game. He has a high position that can cover the north and the south, and he can move along that ridge. But the problem is that that position is usually dominated by the enemy, by the assaulting team, so we don't have control of it. Looks like he did come down to the lower level. The Object 704 made a huge mistake. What he doesn't realize is if he gets taken out of that game, if he gets taken out of the game and we control that upper ridge, the game's over for the enemy team. That Bat Chat is a big threat to me. He's got to go. I got to now, because he's in that position, I cannot play the game anymore, because if I get spotted, he could easily spot me. He's just going to kill me instantly. So the Object 704 was taken out of the game by the Sheridan, but we still have this Bat Chat who's going to prevent me from firing my gun. He did kill the Sheridan. And I didn't spot him when he fired. Missed a key shot. So now from this point onward, I won't be able to use this spotting position. I'm going to relocate to another position. This tank is a Type 64. This is a Chinese Tier 6 light tank. And the map is Karelia. This is an assault defend game, and I'm on the defending team. This is a wonderful tank. I highly recommend it. It's very mobile. I love firing the gun, and I enjoy playing it. I'm going to show you a sniping position, which is right here. Because I have a fast tank, I'm going to get here without being noticed, and there's a good chance I could be here the entirety of the game without the enemy ever knowing that I'm here. So it is a great position. Now, depending on where you are, from here I'm not going to spot any enemy tanks, but I could have taken up an alternative position to allow me to spot the enemy while I'm waiting. This map, there's a lot of people that like to go to this position that I'm pointing to at the map, the D4 position. So you do have to worry about that. If someone makes it there, you could it makes this position a lot harder to play. So you want to prevent the enemy from getting there, and this is a very good position. If you want to know everything you need to know about playing that position, look for my video, Karelia assault at D4. It might be 2 years old. It's an old video, but it's going to show you like 20 or 30 games how to assault at that position. You'll notice that there's 3 tanks in this area. The ARL is spotted, so he's taking incoming fire. I took a hit. I took a hit that was meant for the ARL. You'll notice that we do not have anyone in the south flank. Our southern southwest flank is completely open. In this type of a situation, look at the mini-map. You see that there's a Hellcat right there. There's the ARL right here, and then there's me right here. It's good for us all to be here, but it's better if we spread out a little bit. We have targets in the north. We need our allies to spot for us. So it doesn't make sense to really go into the south unless you want to spot for the south, which means you're not going to fire your gun. If we're going to fire our gun, the ARL is going to fire his gun. He's going to have to take up a good position. What I could have done was given up this position to the ARL, but it's obvious. But I don't think I'm going to do that for this game. The Hellcat is here. He's obviously got a good position, but really we should have spread out. Over in the future videos, I will be exploring other sniping positions, and I will show you how to spread out to those other positions, but it's not going to be in this game. You can see we have a situation here, tank up on the hill. You want to keep him spotted. We got a lot of snipers in the back. We just lost the ARL. The ARL was killed by the ISM, and we don't know where the ISM is on the field yet. So I see that the Hellcat is coming down. Got to take him out. He's a big threat. Because I was spotted, I'm worried about incoming fire from this side of the map because we don't know what's out there, and we know that on the other side of the map in the north, they can't shoot at me because they're on the other side of the hill. So the safer position is for me to reverse to this side. So now the Hellcat did the right thing. He's countering our position. He's making it very difficult for us to snipe from the middle. That's the right move for the enemy Hellcat. I want to help my teammate. I want to get rid of that Hellcat. I'm going to be watching what my teammate does. Okay, my teammate is dead. If my teammate was going to go after that Hellcat, I would have gone 2-on-1 with my teammate to take out that Hellcat. But he was killed by the Chi-Ri, which is who I was aiming at. If I had killed that Chi-Ri, my ally might still be alive. So now what I have to do is remain in a spotting position, but still stay hidden, and hope that we can get that Hellcat spotted, and hopefully my allies will take him out. I got 445 damage, 256 spotting damage. There's that ISM. The ISM that killed the ARL-44. So the Hellcat is playing in a very passive position. He knew he tried to advance, but he got spotted, and I did not get spotted. Now that I have nothing to do, I'm going to check up on the Hellcat when I have nothing to do, just to make sure. Running out of targets to shoot at. So I got to pay attention to that Hellcat. Scanning for targets, don't find anything. So now I'm going in to check on the Hellcat, just in case he advanced. Just so you know, when you're in this position where that enemy Hellcat is, the best thing to do to become unspotted is to reverse, to go far away. He knows I'm here. I know he's there. If I wanted to run away from the Hellcat, I would reverse to the rock behind me and then get as far away, keeping rocks between us. If he tries to go a different direction, he's more likely to get spotted. I'm going to sit here. Okay, so we cleaned up in the north. So I saw the Hellcat making a move for me, but it was my allies were not able to respond fast enough. That was 676 damage, 256 spotting damage, and I got 1 kill. The score is 9-4, and we appear to have won in the north. This tank is the ELC Even 90. This is a French Tier 8 light tank. The map is Live Oaks. I'm going to show you a sniping position that you can use on this map. In regards to this tank is a little difficult to drive because it doesn't have enough engine power. So a small obstacle, like a small wall, can really slow you down. And the gun is absolutely horrible. You need the gun laying drive and the V-stab, or anything you can, cruise skills to improve your gun handling. That's a great spotting bush where that AMX 1357 went to. You'll notice that there's some hills over here, which over here, if you get behind these hills and that house, there's a great view of the tanks on their way to town. There's a little bush over here where you do have a view of the tanks going to town, but it's somewhat obstructed. You can see that a T-29 made it across without me noticing. And you get 2 chances. You get a chance to hit them as where the black prince is. And if you miss, you get another chance to hit them where the IS-4 is. If you get spotted and you need safety, in this case, all you have to do is drive forward and hug that house or that house there, or head for the dip over here. You can see the gun handling is not very good. There is artillery in this game, and I can definitely be hit by the artillery. So I did 690 damage. In this position, I only did 217 damage against the T-29. The other damage I did was at the start of the game. So not only is it a sniping position, but you can get around the rear of the enemy. And what I do is I snipe from that position, wait for the enemy to go into town. Ideally, if the enemy is spotted, because we have lots of allies in the town, you come over here and you put pressure on their rear flank. But you have to be very careful because obviously the artillery at base can hit you here. And you'll notice that there's an unspotted T-92. And he's right behind me. He just appeared on the minimap. And he was a threat that I didn't realize. But from this position, you can snipe down that road into the town. This tank is a Tiger II. This is a German Tier 8 heavy tank, and the map is Live Oaks. I am going to show you a sniping position that you can use when you play on this map. And this sniping position is going to be playable with a slower tank such as the Tiger II. It's only doing 32 kilometers. The reason why it's important is because you want to get to the sniping position as quickly as possible. Otherwise, you're going to miss some of your targets. We're going to be able to hit the slower targets, such as the enemy Type 5 Heavy, who's going to pass by on that route. As for this tank, I'm not that crazy about this tank. I really don't enjoy playing it. I prefer the heavy tanks from the other nations. But I do play every tech tree, and I have every tech tree mostly on Tier 9 or Tier 10. This is obviously a Tier 8 because I don't like playing it that much. There's a couple different positions you can play, so this just happens to be one of them. I often go to, I don't know if I go to that next building or not. You could play behind here. You could go to the building one street over, which allows you to shoot down the street. You can go to over here behind me. You see that there's a tree in the center of the screen. There's a little shed and there's a little bush. That bush is a sniping position that you can use that allows you to hit the tanks that are entering town, right at the point that they enter town, as they go through the first row of houses. Okay, so here comes the Type 5 Heavy. Might not be able to penetrate it, but we'll see what happens. I reloaded by mistake. Did 289 damage. I hit his roof, which should be weak armor, but I ricocheted. So I did 854 damage against that Type 5 Heavy so far. And I know he doesn't have good gun depression, so he has to expose himself. He did hit me with an HE round. He is 2 tiers higher than me, which means he will do a lot of damage. And I know he has a long reload. In general, almost every tank that has a high damage usually has a long reload. Missed again. $308 damage. By the time he makes it into town, he's going to be at a fraction of his hit points. He really is playing the wrong strategy. And he took the wrong position when he went into that lower area because it's affecting his gun depression. What he should be doing is reversing to use gun elevation instead of using the gun depression. He would have been able to hit me. I'm just going to sit here, spot him when I need to spot him. He took another 500 damage right there. Spotting him from the other side of the building. He's not going to have his gun. Oh, he did have his gun pointed that way. Okay, so like I said, he's only down to 900 hit points. He lost 2,000 hit points because of the fact that I was in that position harassing him. I did 1,466 damage, and I did 526 spotting damage. And if I am correct, the 1,466 damage that I did was all against the Type 5 Heavy. This tank is a WZ-111 1-4. It's a Chinese Tier 9 heavy tank. The map is Live Oaks. I'm going to show you a sniping position, which is also an ambush position. Being an ambush position means that you're going to be a little bit better off if you have a derp gun that does a lot of damage, or if you have an autoloader which can do a lot of damage in a short period of time. This particular tank has a certain type of turret style. It has a rounded turret, which means you're going to choose your ambush position on this map dependent on the type of turret you have. And there's two choices. One is basically where this STA-2 is headed for those bushes in front of me, and the other one, there's a little mound. There's some houses over here, and there's a mound. You can get behind that mound. That's another position that I'll show you in a future video. Or maybe not. Maybe I'm headed to the mound. I don't think this one's going to go to the mound. Okay. Just to be clear, where I said the STA-2 was headed, we came from a little dip, and there's a bunch of bushes over there, and you see where that STA-2 is, where the road is. Basically, there's a position right there where you can sit. I'm pointing to it directly on the map that lets you shoot down that road, which is a very good hull down position, which if you look at my previous videos, you're going to see it in my previous videos. There's a lot of stuff in the way, which makes it difficult to use this position. And you got to deal with our artillery. Obviously, this is a game that has artillery. If I had gotten closer to the building, the artillery would have had less of an impact on me. You can see the IS-4 hit me from the side road because I was not in a good position, so I repositioned. But that's part of playing the game. You know, I know the position. It takes a little bit of practice to learn how to use it properly. You can see that the M103 he's too close for comfort. So I'm a little bit worried about the M103. I've got something I have to keep an eye on. If he starts heading my way, I'm going to have to run or defend myself. I got hit by the artillery again. The Conway is unspotted at this time. One of the good things about this position is that if you've got a good battle going on in the town, which we don't because the enemy tanks are unspotted, my team has not entered the town, what you can do is you can come up on the rear and you can put pressure on the enemy from the rear. This is a secondary position. I hit the tanks on their way into town from that position that I initially was at, and then I fall back to this position and hit them a second time as they cross the road going in. I did receive a lot of damage in this particular game. However, don't underestimate this position. I use it many times. I have a lot of great hits from being in this position. And like I said, if you look at these hills right over here, you got a hull down position right over here that you can use. So we found the Conway. This position is no longer useful. Okay, so we're getting outside of the focus of the position, and let's move on to another video. This tank is the RU-251. This is a German Tier 9 light tank, and the map is Mannerheim Line, also known as Arctic region. I'm going to show you a sniping position that you can use in this game. Now, if you've watched my videos, you'll know that I often go to this bush. However, I play a different strategy now. Previously, I did it solely for spotting, but now what I do is a combination of spotting and sniping. I try to snipe on the tanks that are headed into the fighting position. For example, the ones that are heading into the east side, like that, and that tank right there. So I'm going to count to 10. There's an ELC that showed up behind me. But I just wanted to show you how you can hit tanks like that T54B. So I was able to hit a T-34B who was on the way to the fight. I did 251 damage. With the STRV, who was up in that sniping position, I did 241 damage. And for the HWK light tank, who tried to come in, I did 241 damage. This tank is the Batchat 25T. This is a French Tier 10 medium tank. The map is Nebelberg. This is also a Grand Battle map. For those of you who have not played the Grand Battle maps, they're not the most fun maps to play. So don't be, it's a little bit disappointing. Don't worry too much that you haven't played it yet. They're not that great. I am going to show you a sniping position. The reason why they're not fun is because it's mostly brawling. There's going to be no flanking, no spotting, no sneaky tricks, none of that. It's just one giant brawl. Very hard to find a sneaky position. And this is one of my first attempts because I just got the Batchat. So I have to search, you know, there's no one to show me all the great positions on the map. I have to learn the hard way, but we're going to find one in this game and we're going to show it to you. You got to find a position where you can spot the enemy, stay invisible, do damage, have a way out, be protected from arty. You got to have all those things come into place. It takes trial and error. So this is going to be one of those games where I don't know where the sniping position is yet. Usually when I show you a sniping position, I've played it 100 times already. So what I'm doing is I'm exploring, knock the tree down for more cover. Okay, now look at this right here. Look at what we're doing. Look at my position on the mini-map. And you can see we've got some allies back over there. We've got snipers, artillery. We've got the town over here. We've got a pond. We've got some ruins. We've got a hill. We've got a lot of things blocking us. We've got this open road over here, which enemies will occasionally drive through that open road, but it's rare right now because it's not safe. However, now we found a position, which is right here. Look up in the middle. You see all those tanks up there in the middle. They go there to brawl in the middle of the map. And the tanks that have a long reload, like the FV, I don't know what it is, the FV215B183, the Batchats, the autoloaders, anyone who has a long reload, they're going to reverse down this slope while they're reloading. And they're going to go back up to brawl. So what we're going to do is we're going to sit here and we're going to look for targets. So now what we have is we have a sniping position which counters an enemy tactic. And we're going to sit right here. There's a tree that fell. I only did 28 damage, but I did get the kill on that very powerful tank. And we get these tanks that are crossing over that gap. They're at the edge of my spotting range, so it's unlikely that they're going to spot me because I have camo on my tank, camo crew skills. I've got soft cover in front of me. So we got a good spotting position right here. Okay, so for sniping, like we have another tank that just showed up, the Jagdpanzer E100. He would have been a potential target from this position. As for the tanks that are off there in the distance, I don't know who spotted them. Many tanks have to go through that position at the start of the game, and they're going to be slow, heavy tanks. So now the key is to be able to spot them and snipe at them. We've got lots of bushes over here, and to have a place to protect ourselves. I think that this position is going to work out in the future. I did get some damage on some of the tanks that came across, including the T110 E5 where I got some spotting damage, and I did 388 damage as he crossed over. And I did miss the Type 5 Heavy that crossed over. But this is going to be one of the sniping positions. Look out in the future for a more gameplay from this position when I refine the position. You see that the Type 5 Heavy is now crossing over in the center of the town, which is one of the threats that I mentioned. This tank is the VK100-01P. This is a German Tier 8 heavy tank. The map is Prokhorovka. I'm going to show you a sniping position that you can use with this tank. I'm going to talk a little bit about the tank. You see this tank in the game and you wonder if it's a good tank to play. This is an excellent tank to play in the game. It's one of the tanks where I get the highest experience. It has excellent armor on it. It has very few weak spots. You're going to be weaker when you're up close to the enemy because it'll be easier for them to hit your weak spot. And when you're far away, it's far more difficult for the enemy to hit your weak spots. The other thing about this tank is that the enemy often bounces off my armor. I reviewed my highest experience tanks recently for the Progetto free tank mission, and what I discovered is that my most heavily armored tanks had the highest experience. When you can only hit the top of a turret, it's better to use a high explosive round. Obviously, that could have been the side turret, which means an AP round would be good. But if you can't penetrate with a regular round, switch to the high explosive rounds. I've got a lot of rounds. When you see a tank that's hidden behind buildings that are destructible, and you have a lot of rounds, I often knock the buildings down. So for that shot, we don't know if we did any damage. It's better to use an AP round to knock buildings down than to use a high explosive round. An AP round can go through more obstacles than a high explosive round can. That was a high explosive round, I believe. So far I've done 0 damage, however, I do have 450 spotting damage. From this location, I was able to spot an enemy tank. It's a lousy shot.